My name is Joel Jones with the West Virginia Beekeeper Association. Our topic for this evening's workshop is what's wrong with my hive? A question that everybody asks from time to time. Speaker tonight is Debbie Main. She's been a beekeeper since 2012 after taking a beginning course in the Mon County Beekeeping Club. And she also ordered her first bees that year. She was in 2015 elected as the treasurer of the Mon County Beekeepers, still holds that seat. And she's been active in many local events and functions, and she attends frequently, and she's always eager to learn about bees. She's also in the West Virginia State Association Master Beekeeping Program. Other than bees, she likes genealogy, jewelry, and beeswax candles, and is very passionate about bees and a topic tonight for both experienced and inexperienced. So if there are any questions throughout the presentation, please enter them in the chat box, either to me and or Debbie or to the public. And then at the end, I think we have a number of participants that would probably permit us to do oral questions at the end. So anyway, with that, I will turn it over to Debbie.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Debbie Main, as like he introduced, and still remembering being a new beekeeper and heading to your hives and saying, what am I supposed to be looking at? What am I supposed to be watching? So as you're gathering up your equipment and you're heading out and you got your smoker and all your tools and you're heading down to the hive, you should really just stop a little bit just before you get to your hive and say, is there anything going on? What's wrong here? There. Look around. See what you see. Listen. Even smell. Observe the state of the bees. Do they look like they're happy, just going about their business? Are they just buzzing around? Do you see any dead ones or sick ones on the entrance or on the ground crawling in the grass? Is there any evidence of critters? Do you see any scratches on the front of your boxes or any scat laying there? You just have to be observant and see what's going on. Before you even run down there and get in your hive, which is what you really want to do, there's some outside interferences there that you might need to be observing. Do they sound angry? Are they fighting at the entrance? Are they flying around wildly, buzzing in a cyclone manner? So as you're going around and you're looking, look at some of these outside disturbances first. Do they sound queenless? Do they sound overly aggressive? What are you thinking? What are you hearing? What do you smell? Do you smell? Well, maybe. Or do you smell a nice mix of honey and wax and pollen? Do you smell a foul odor? Do you smell a rotten odor, a fishy odor, a sour smell odor, or do you smell stinky socks? All of these will lead you to an idea of what's going on, but you have to be observant and you have to be paying attention to what's going on. Bad smells may be due to dead bees in the hive, dead brood. It may be American foul brood or European foul brood decay, a dead animal. Maybe there's one laying under your hive or even in your hive, like a mouse. Let's start with one. I don't have time to go over all of the conditions this evening, but we'll start with some of the main ones. American foul brood. It would be your decaying smell. Dead larvae after they're capped. Now that's a big difference. You have to know if the smell is becoming after they're capped or before they're capped. And it's caused by spores contaminating the food. And that was brought in, and as the workers are spreading out the food, they're spreading it all over. Your hive will just kind of dwindle down. The bee activity slows down. You'll find dead bees. Bees may be irritable, the ones that are still alive. Your brood appears to be molten, cappings and cells becoming concave, and they'll have little punctures, as you can see in that one center picture and a couple of those different pictures. And one of the tests that you can do to see which foul brood you may have is like the rope test. Take a little stick, blade of grass, matchstick or something, stick down in there into one of those cells. And if it pulls out, like in a ropey, smeary, snotty looking stuff, it might be American foul brood, but you'll have to be tested first before you really know. If you open up the cells and then their immature forms, they're dead, even down under there. Your larva color will be a dark brown instead of the creamy color that we would like for you to have, and they'll have a greasy look to them. And if you look really close, and in some of these you can see their little tongues will be sticking out. And it affects, like I said there a minute ago, it affects the capped brood. Then another one we might have is the European foul brood, which I had to deal with this summer. That gives you a sour, stinky, fish smelly smell. It mostly appears in the early spring. It affects your nurse bees. Your brood will be gooey instead of ropey like the other one. And unlike American foul brood, this one affects the larva before it is capped. So it is the ones that you can see up in those upper pictures before they've got them capped. That's when you'll be seeing most of this. Your larva will die rapidly. It causes a significant weakening of the hives to the point of collapse. You'll see scattered brood pattern, but this is treatable with tetracycline. You have to have your state apiarist come down, check it out. He or she agrees on what it is. And then she gets you a little script and you call your vet. And mine worked very well with me this year. And they just wrote it right out, and they liked it because it was new to them as much as it was new to me. So they liked the experience and seeing how they had to process through that too. Another condition, you might have phoretic mite syndrome, PMS. There's another one of your smells. It's a condition that causes your colony to just kind of dwindle away. There's a decaying smell, spotty brood, larva, but you won't find any eggs. The cells will be open with their heads chewed off. As you can see in that middle picture there, if you can zoom in on it, it's like all chewed around. They've opened it back up, and you're just going to see their bodies. You can even, if you look real close on some of them, you'll even see mites that'll be on the adult bees. And that's the last place that you'd want to see them. First, you'll observe them like in the cells on your larva. But when you start seeing them on your bees, you know you have a problem. Another thing you might want to watch for on your adult bees to see if they have deformed wing disease, like that top one up there, K-wing. That is a condition of too many mites, and their wings are small and skinny and just deformed. You'll be able to look at them and you'll say, oh yeah, that doesn't look right. You'll often see supersedure cells present, because this hive knows they got a problem and they're getting ready to re-queen and get out of there. These often seen crawling around near the entrance of the hive. They're just weak. They just can't do what they need to be doing. As I mentioned before, you'll often see chewed down brood, prematurely open cells. Currently, the only method to know to help this out is mite control. Then your other smell is your stinky feet. You can observe for diseases, and if you look around and you see none of these other conditions there, it might be a good thing, because if it is fall and your goldenrod is in bloom around you, then this is a good thing because you are making goldenrod honey. What if you go down to your hive and you're not hearing anything? There's no bees. You open it up, they're all gone. That's a worry. There's almost or most of all the bees have left. This is different from a swarm. They swarm for other reasons. They left half or so of the bees in a swarm, but these bees will be just all gone. Some of the reasons might be they're just uncomfortable in there. Too hot, too low of a temperature. Maybe there's been a strong wind, a storm going around. Poor ventilation. They're damp. Something's bothering them. Like earlier, was there scratches? Was there scat out there? Was there an animal? Maybe they have the lack of food and water. They're just not been able to go out and get any. Parasites, diseases, overpopulation. They need some room. They just don't like their queen. Colony collapse disorder. And some bees just have a genetic to just take up and go. Do you have excess ants? I've seen a lot of earwigs this year. I don't see that they bothered them that much, but if you have a whole lot of them, that might have been it. Yellow jackets, small hive beetles, wax moths. As you can see up in the top picture, the one that is slimy, that is your small hive beetle. The one down on the lower right, you will have a webbing, like a whole bunch of spider webs or cottony looking stuff in there. That's your wax moths. Maybe treated something with thymol. That was one of your options for this. You should have treated maybe. What about swarming? As you're walking down and you can hear the bees, there will be a big roar. You'll notice it. One day this summer, later summer, I was at the grocery store. My husband calls me and says, "Something's wrong with your bees." And I was going, "What's wrong with my bees?" He says, "They're just flying everywhere. The whole backyard's full of them." I said, "They are." "Well, what are they doing?" He says, "I don't know. I stayed in the house." So I finished my shopping, get on home. As soon as I parked in the driveway and opened the door, I heard them. They were swarming. I heard them clear from the front of the house, and my bees are down in the backyard. And as you walk down around the house, you'll observe, like starting at the hive, if you've caught them fast enough, they go in like a big cyclone manner, and they just will do it. Of course, I ran, got the pots, tried it, and didn't work. They just kept going anyway. So I lost that one. So you'll have to observe. Did you see any signs of swarming? Queen cells. Your bees are flying wildly. You only have half of your bees left if you've looked in your hive. You don't have a queen because she went off with the first half of the bees. They may have been too crowded. Once again, it could be genetic, or there was a heavy mite load. You can do a whole lot of things to try to stop them from swarming, but sometimes they just go. Oh, dysentery. That's not fun. Usually you'll find that in the spring, after the bees have been cooped up in their hives, and if it's been a cold winter and they haven't been able to get out, they will just be going everywhere. You'll see you'll see it all over your hives, inside your box, all over your frames, smeared inside, outside. There'll be dead bees on the ground, all over your frames, outside. This is not a disease, but it's a condition. Sac brood. Sac brood is a virus. you'll find your little larvae in little sacs. They fail to pupate. They fail to complete their cycle. And if you look really close and just keep studying them, I'd like to take a magnifying glass down with me and watch them. You'll see little pointy ends. The little bodies in there is kind of like the shape of a canoe. You'll have uneven brood patterns, discolored, sunken in, perforated cappings, but it'll be like scattered out through your frame. Another thing you might observe is these little white bodies laying around. They might be throwing them out. You might have a case of chalk brood. Chalk brood is a fungal disease. It affects the bee's guts. You'll have it mostly in the spring, especially if you have a wet spring and it's excessive moisture. They just literally look like little white mummies laying out there. But you can usually get over chalk brood in the spring when it dries out, get your hives all dried out, the moisture gets whipped away there a little bit. They mostly can recover from chalk brood. Oh, what if you have a neighbor or someone around you with spraying pesticides? Sometimes you just can't affect it, especially if you live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of farms, or some people just spray a lot of pesticides anyway. So you might have been poisoned. You'll see a large, sudden number of dead bees that just be laying out there. Sometimes you'll see them at your hive dead, but a lot of times the foragers will go and they'll be out and they'll just die out in the field and they won't come back. And then when they don't come back, they're not bringing back in food or water back into your hive. And then the bees that you do have in there will just die away because they won't have the foragers that are fed them. Oops. Skipped one. Colony collapse disease. This is a condition that is poorly understood. Your workers just disappear, so you have to be like a little detective. Did they die from a pesticide? Did they die from a disease? Did they come back at all? You just have to kind of work it out. So some potential causes are environment, pesticides, nosema, or mites. The bees may be gone, but you'd still have your honey in your brood. So as you hear, several of these conditions that we're observing could be several different things. So we really have to be detectives to try to observe a lot of different conditions to decide just what it is that's gone wrong with this hive. Maybe you were queenless. Just never know. She might have just left. It might be from she got cold, she was hungry, she got weakened, she had a disease, she's not laying very well, or she might have got mites or human error. Maybe you squished her and you didn't know it. She was between frames. Maybe you squished her with the top. A lot of things can happen with that down there. Maybe she just didn't return from her mating flight. Maybe she had the genetics just to swarm. So you have to do some investigation and check it out and just see just what happened with this. Varroa, the dreaded Varroa. Those mites will get you. They can be an epidemic. They feed on the fat bodies of their bees and they cause weakness. They're spread from your bees, from other bees. So what if you had a bee from another apiary, or one of your hives got it, and then when she returned, she got off a little bit and went in the other hive, and now those little mites have jumped off of her and now they're in there. You just never know. They lay eggs in the cells. Weather patterns can also affect the buildup of your mites. I was asking Shanda earlier today, I said, well, what does the weather have to do with mites? And she said, well, early in the spring, if it is cool and wet for a long while, all of them won't be laying their eggs and maturing. And then later in the spring, later than what you would think, then you'll have a big load. Or if you have a hot spring and the bees are out and they're all active and they're all laying real well, those mites have gotten in there, then you'll have a mite load earlier in the season what you would expect. Another reason that can cause this is proper hive management. You're just not watching. You're just not taking care, noticing what you got, what's going on. And this picture here, if you look in there on the left-hand picture, you see the pointer is pointing at a little white thing with legs. These are out of my hives. Shanda was here one day and she was doing an inspection, and we just happened to catch this little guy. He was running, we'd pulled out the drone, and this little guy was running around in there. You could actually see him running around on the inside. So that's the first one. That's the male. He'll always stay white. And if you look on down deeper into there, you'll see the brown, reddish brown ones. That's your female. And there'll be 2 or 3 that'll happen in there. And she points out in the second picture there where there's mite poop and a female that's not quite mature yet. But I just really like this picture. I thought we captured a moment there, so I just wanted to share that. Critters. Observe. Did you see stuff tore up? Did you have scratches? Is there scat laying around? See the little skunk down in the bottom? He'll leave scratches. The bear will just take it apart. You'll see damages on the front, destruction of your hives of bear. Inside, you might have mice, rats, yellow jackets. It could be a number of things. Questions? I went through this a little faster than I should have, but I'm open for questions now.
I think we've had enough people log on that it'd probably be more efficient to have people type questions. And if after we're done having typed questions, I think there's at least one person in by phone. We can let the audio questions come after we've done typed questions.
Absolutely.
So if y'all want to go ahead and ask some questions, go ahead and put that in the chat box there. I got a comment from Steve, said that he really enjoyed the most recent picture you showed us of the mites.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that one too. That's why I wanted to add it in there. I just thought that was a moment of time that you just catch that.
I can ask a question while we're waiting for other people to type. Do you have a problem with the skunks visiting? I have them visit, and I've caught them red-handed in the act, and I've caught them eating bees off of the beards and all that other stuff, but I've never actually had them tear up a hive. I don't know if have you had that kind of a problem with them?
I have not, because my apiary is inside of about a 1/4 acre fence, but it's also inside the fence with 9 beagles. So I've not had any trouble with critters around my house. of that kind.
Okay, so we got a question. Jennifer, I'm assuming I'm reading that moniker correctly, is wanting to know if you can go back to slide 19 and show that again.
That one there?
And then maybe if you want to, just for people who may not know, maybe explain a little bit of why this is so interesting in terms of the mite's life cycle and why it's kind of unusual to have caught this picture. I think maybe some people might not maybe fully appreciate how what part of the life cycle this is.
The female mite will be riding around on the bees till she gets to inside the hive. And then the mites typically want to be in a drone cell the most because they're bigger. So she'll go around till she can find one, and then she'll get inside just before that cell is capped. And her first baby that she will produce is the male. And he's that little white one. And then after, how many days? 14 days or 30 days, she can have 2 to 3 female babies after that. And like I said, they like the drone because they can get in there and they get more, and they get in there and they eat. And that little male, he will then in turn mate with literally his sisters. And then if you pull out those drones, you'll see those little mites on there. Then they're ready to go, jump off on another bee, and off they go to contaminate somebody else.
Perfect. Got a question from Debbie Martin. Is it too early to do weekly oxalic acid treatments for 3 to 4 weeks? I'll let you field that. I don't know if she means the drip treatment or the vaporization, but if you want to field that question.
I don't think it is, particularly if you haven't treated them recently, or if you did treat them recently and you've done your mite check and you find out that you have mites, or you've pulled out your little drones and you've got mites on there, I would go ahead and give them another treatment real quick. They say 3 weeks, but if you count up the time that it takes for the mites to get in there and to mature and for drones to come out, 4 treatments a week apart is your better route to go. And then you should be fine then until I looked for about the week of Christmas, and I'll give them another shot of oxalic acid.
I might add for maybe some people who are beginning, a lot of that answer probably depends on what like you said, what you've done earlier in the year as part of your overall mite treatment regime.
Yeah, you need to check, because sometimes maybe you had a failure with your earlier treatments. Maybe it wasn't any good. Maybe it gotten hot, or you had such a mite load that you only got part of them killed, or it could just got reinfected again. Those bees get mixed up sometimes and go in the wrong hive. And if it was an untreated bee from somewhere else, they just infected you again.
Yep, I've got some comments here too. One other thing maybe to note is this time of year, the bees are not going to be broodless if you're counting on that. But we got a comment. Debbie Martin said that she had a issue with some possums that she had to relocate, and then Steve says that he had the problem with raccoons, who are intelligent little beasts, getting into his stored equipment. So that was not the bees in there. I've had issues with mice getting in stored equipment as well. So I think the stored equipment's probably a problem.
Yeah.
Too. So we got a question from Teresa. Why does goldenrod honey smell and then go away?
It's just it's just the makeup of the pollen that comes off of the goldenrod. It smells as far as them bringing it in, and you can tell when they're bringing it in because the front entrance of your hive will have yellow all over it. But it doesn't make a stinky taste in your honey. Your honey is actually very good. It's just the pollen that comes out of the goldenrod.
Yeah. Question from our inspector: was working with the veterinarian to get your veterinary feed directive prescription a fairly easy procedure?
It was very easy with my veterinarian. I actually had a dog going in to see them that day anyhow, and we just had called them in from while we was here and said, what is it that you want, and would one of the veterinarians be compliant with that? And they said absolutely, and she wanted to know the process anyway. So she was very willing to see the papers and to write it up, and it was very easy. I ordered my stuff from Man Lake. The lady was very nice to work with, and we just got it taken care of in just a couple days.
Let's see. Anyone want to type any more questions? If not, then I can open it up to oral questions for anybody who may not have the ability to type. Or if anybody is here by phone and does not have the ability to type, then please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question. I'll give you a few seconds to do that as well.
Steve.
We can hear you.
Okay, not a question, just a congratulations. You did very well. Nice delivery, nice slides, very entertaining. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I expected it to be a little longer, but I guess I talked too fast.
Pray for more questions. Thank you.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Any oral questions from people who cannot type questions? Oh, we got some more congratulatory remarks here. Several people are congratulating and saying they enjoyed the presentation.
Yeah, they knew I was nervous.
I think you did a very, very good job. I've sat through many a Zoom presentation, and this was very entertaining. I did like how you approached it from as you walk into the bee yard, and then from there. I thought that was a good way to do it.
Yeah, sometimes you just rush right down there, and your first thing you want to do is pop it open and get in there, but you've missed all the telltale signs before you've looked in the box.
Yes, absolutely. Debbie Martin wants to know the quantity of antibiotics prescribed. And, while you're at it, this isn't part of her question, but a lot of people have not been through this experience. It may be beneficial to tell people how you actually applied the antibiotic to the colony as well.
It's a powder, and it comes with the little scoop already in it. And I think it might have been an eighth, maybe. I'm not remembering at the moment, but the scoop was in the container, and you order it in a pound container, and you have to do, I think, 4 treatments a week apart. And when you take your top off, I put it between 2 brood boxes, and right across the 2 ends where all the little wide parts are the frames that rub together as you're putting them in, that set close. You just trail that powder across those 2 areas, right across the top of the frames between the 2 brood boxes.
Will they consume it without any sugar or pollen supplement or anything?
Yes, they did. They ate it, every bit of it. They didn't need anything else to help them with it. They just ate it.
Very good. How long from the application of the antibiotic did it take for you to see a response?
A brood cycle through, so almost a month for the affected ones to get taken out and gotten rid of, and the new bees got laid and growed, about a month. But it immediately got better. You can tell right off, but for your bees to return and get back to a full hive, it was about a month.
Very good. Any other questions? We've got some time and someone who's very knowledgeable and an important subject, so I'd hate to have any questions go unanswered. All right, well, I don't see any more questions, and I will say it was a comprehensive and efficient presentation, so I think everybody appreciates that. Debbie, we certainly appreciate your time and preparing the presentation. And I assume that if someone has some questions to follow up on, they could get a hold of you otherwise to maybe ask a question they didn't want to ask in front of the group.
Sure, absolutely. I'm on Facebook as Deborah Main, and it'll be like a little bee. And you can also find me on the Monongalia County Beekeepers Association site.
Okay. We did have a follow-up question from Alan and Jenny Morris. They, I think, came in a little late, and so they wanted to know what ailment you had received the prescription for the antibiotics.
European foul brood.
And did you, I don't know when they came in, maybe remind them how you diagnosed that and determined that was necessary.
My state inspector found it.
Perfect.
She just happened to be there right when, and she caught it right off. This one. And she pointed out to us, my brother shares with this, if you can look at the little brood, they're just not right. You can see they're kind of brown. Some of them look dead. Because you have to remember, European foul brood affects it before they're capped. So you can actually see the little larvae in there that just don't look right. And it's like out on the middle of your frame. And if you would put two frames together, you can see these were just discolored. You can tell the color if you see it the side of another one, and they're sunken. Now, you know, sometimes you'll have your brood, the cat brood, if they're walked on, they're just kind of smashed a little bit because there's a lot of bee activity. But it's not just that they're walked on, these are sunken down. You can literally see that they're lower than whatever else is in there. And they're stinky.
Yes, all good signs. So, all right. Well, I think everybody's sending their thanks. I think everyone's very appreciative of your time and your presentation. Thank you very much. And if I'll give everyone one last chance to ask some questions, and then we will let Debbie go. All right. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think everybody else did too. And for everybody who sat through the workshops for the past week, thank you for participating, and I hope you all got a lot out of it.
Thank you very much for your help tonight.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you later.
Thank you.